Evermore was a land of breathtaking beauty, a realm of ancient whispers and enduring stone. The azure peaks scraped the heavens, their jagged summits crowned with eternal snow. Mighty eagles, with wings like shadows, circled these silent sentinels. They surveyed the vast lands below, their cries echoing in the crisp, clean air. These mountains stood as silent guardians, watching over the kingdom. They'd seen ages pass, holding the secrets of time in their cold, rocky embrace, a testament to nature's unyielding power and grace. Through the heart of Evermore flowed the Silver Stream River, a ribbon of life, shimmering and swift. It began as a trickle in the high mountains, growing into a powerful current. It wound its way through dense forests and across fertile plains. Its waters nourished the land. Animals, great and small, came to its banks to drink. Deer stepped delicately through the reeds, and bears fished in its rushing currents. The river sang a constant song, a melody of movement and vitality. It was the lifeblood of the kingdom, a symbol of its enduring spirit. The verdant woods were deep and mysterious. Ancient trees with gnarled branches reached towards the sky, their leaves forming a dense canopy. Sunlight dappled the forest floor, hidden clearings lay like secrets within its depths. The air was thick with the scent of pine needles and damp earth. Strange flowers bloomed in shadowed nooks. The woods were a place of quiet wonder. They held a sense of magic, of things unseen but deeply felt. Many tales were told of these woods, tales of sprites and forgotten paths. Evermore was a kingdom of contrasts, majestic and wild, peaceful yet imbued with an unspoken history. Its people were hardy and kind. They lived in harmony with the land, respecting its power and its beauty. The castles were built from mountain stone, and the villages nestled in sheltered valleys. A quiet strength emanated from the earth itself, shaping the lives of those who called Evermore home. This land was more than just a place. It was a character in their unfolding story, a silent witness to their joys and sorrows. Prince David was the heir to Evermore's throne. He was young, he was handsome, and his eyes held a thoughtful, almost melancholic gaze. A kind smile often tried to break through his regal composure, but the weight of his duties often suppressed it. He moved with the grace expected of a prince, yet there was a restlessness within him, a yearning for something more than courtly life could offer. He was a prince of the people, but his own heart felt strangely isolated within the castle's grand, cold walls. He found no solace in the endless balls and formal dinners. The conversations were shallow, the smiles were often insincere. Potential brides were paraded before him, chosen for their lineage, for political alliances. Their eyes rarely met his with genuine warmth. He longed for a connection that was real, dreamt of a love that saw past his title, and yearned for a heart that understood his own hidden depths. The gilded cage of royalty felt more like a prison than a privilege. He was tired of the pretense. David often dreamt of escaping. He imagined a life where he was just a man, not a prince, not a symbol. He wanted to walk among his people unnoticed, to hear their true thoughts, their genuine laughter. He yearned to find love in its purest form, a love based on shared feelings, on mutual respect, not on duty or expectation. This secret desire gnawed at him, fueling his quiet dissatisfaction with the splendid emptiness of his existence. His soul craved authenticity. The crown he was destined to wear felt heavy, a burden of responsibility, of tradition. He understood his duty to Evermore and loved his kingdom deeply, but the loneliness of his position was profound. He was surrounded by people, yet he felt utterly alone. He was a prince, a future king, but he was also just David, a young man with a heart that ached for true companionship. He felt like an actor playing a part, a role he had not chosen but was born into. In the quiet village of Meadowsweet lived Jane. Her life was simple, woven into the rhythms of nature. She knew the names of the wildflowers and understood the whispers of the wind. Her hands were accustomed to gentle work. She tended her small garden with care and helped her neighbors without a second thought. Her spirit was deep and compassionate. She found beauty in the ordinary, and her days were filled with small acts of kindness. She was a beacon of warmth in her community. Jane possessed a quiet, unassuming beauty. Her eyes were the color of warm earth, reflecting her gentle nature. A soft smile often graced her lips, a smile that reached her eyes and spoke of an inner peace. She was not adorned with jewels or fine silks. Her beauty was in her spirit, in the kindness that radiated from her. She had a strength that was not loud or boastful, but a steady, resilient core. People in the village respected her wisdom and her empathetic heart. Her dreams were not of castles or riches. She dreamt of a life filled with meaning, a life where she could make a difference, however small. She dreamt of a love that was true, a love that understood the quiet language of her soul. She spent many hours alone, not in loneliness, but in thoughtful contemplation. She observed the world around her with keen eyes, seeing the interconnectedness of all things. Her spirit yearned for a connection that mirrored this natural harmony. Jane was an integral part of Meadowsweet. She was the one people turned to for comfort, the one who remembered birthdays and offered help. Her empathy was a soothing balm to troubled hearts. She found joy in the laughter of children and peace in the silence of the forest. Her strength was her kindness, her power was her ability to understand. She lived her life with grace and humility, content with her lot, yet a small part of her hoped for something more, a shared journey. One afternoon, the sky over Evermore turned angry. Dark clouds gathered like a bruise, swallowing the sun whole. A fierce wind began to howl through the trees, tearing at leaves and bending branches. Then the rain came. It was not a gentle shower, it was a deluge, a torrent of water lashing down from the heavens. The world became a blur of grey and driving rain. The storm was sudden, violent, catching many unprepared, transforming the familiar landscape into something wild and untamed. Prince David, disguised in simple traveller's clothes, was far from the castle. He had sought escape, but he had found the storm instead. He was drenched to the bone, his horse struggled on the muddy path. He needed shelter urgently. He scanned the landscape, his eyes stinging from the rain. Visibility was poor, the wind seemed to mock his efforts. He was lost, cold, utterly alone in the tempest's fury. His royal status offered no protection against the raw power of nature. Jane had been gathering herbs in the woods. The storm had ambushed her too. She knew the forest well and ran towards a familiar landmark. A massive, ancient oak tree stood on a small rise. Its branches were thick and spreading, offering a measure of protection. She pressed herself against its sturdy trunk, the rain hammering on the leaves above, sounding like 1,000 tiny drums. The wind roared around her, but beneath the oak there was a small pocket of relative calm, a sanctuary from the storm's rage. Through the sheeting rain, David saw the oak, a dark silhouette against the raging sky. He urged his tired horse towards it, dismounted, his boots sinking into the mud. As he reached the shelter of the tree, he saw her, a young woman, her clothes also soaked, her hair plastered to her face. Their eyes met. A moment of startled surprise passed between them, then a shared understanding of their common plight. The storm raged on, but under the ancient oak, two strangers found an unexpected refuge. David began to visit Meadowsweet Village regularly. He called himself Daniel, a simple traveller. He made excuses to pass through, but his true purpose was Jane. He was drawn to her quiet strength, captivated by her gentle spirit. He found himself thinking of her constantly, her smile, the way her eyes lit up when she spoke of things she loved. Each visit was a stolen moment, a precious escape from his gilded cage. He felt more himself with her than he ever did in the grand halls of his castle. They would talk for hours, not of politics or courtly intrigue, but of simpler things. Of the turning seasons, the beauty of the forest, dreams and aspirations. Jane spoke of her love for her village, and Daniel, as she knew him, spoke of his travels. He spoke of a yearning for a life with more meaning. He listened intently to her. He valued her thoughts. She, in turn, found herself looking forward to his visits. His presence was a comfort. His questions made her think. There was no pretense between them, only honesty. Jane found herself increasingly drawn to Daniel. She admired his thoughtful nature and was intrigued by the sadness she sometimes glimpsed in his eyes, a sadness he tried to hide. She felt a connection to him unlike anything she had ever known. It was a bond forged in shared laughter, growing stronger with every quiet conversation. She did not know his true identity. She loved the man she thought he was, a kind traveller with a gentle soul. Her heart opened to him, slowly but surely. Their moments together became precious rituals. They walked by the Silver Stream River, its gentle murmur providing a soundtrack to their growing affection. They picked wildflowers in the meadows, he clumsy, she graceful, laughter often filling the air between them. He learned about the herbs she gathered. She learned about the distant lands he claimed to have seen. Each shared experience, each quiet glance deepened their unspoken love. A tender bud was blossoming, unseen by the wider world, nurtured by sincerity and stolen time. The idyll could not last forever. Secrets have a way of unraveling. A royal decree bearing the king's seal arrived in Meadowsweet. It announced an upcoming royal tour. It mentioned the prince's interest in the common folk. As the decree was read aloud in the village square, a visiting courtier, part of an advance party, caught sight of Daniel. The courtier's eyes widened in shock. Recognition dawned. He bowed low, uttering, "Your Highness." The charade was over in an instant. The air grew thick with sudden tension. David knew he had to tell Jane the truth himself before she heard it from others, before the whispers and rumors poisoned what they had. He was filled with a profound sense of dread. His deception, born of a desire for genuine connection, now felt like a betrayal. How could she forgive him? How could she understand his motives? The thought of losing her, of seeing disappointment or anger in her eyes, was unbearable. He had sought true love, but had he built it on a foundation of lies? His heart ached with uncertainty. He found Jane by their favorite spot near the river. The oak tree where they first met stood sentinel nearby. His heart pounded in his chest. He took her hands. He looked into her eyes. The words came haltingly at first. "Jane," he began, his voice strained. "I am not who you think I am." He confessed everything, his title, his kingdom, his reasons for the disguise. He was David, Prince of Evermore. Jane listened in stunned silence. Her face paled, shock, disbelief, then a flicker of hurt, quickly followed by a dawning, painful understanding. Jane felt a whirlwind of emotions. The man she loved, the gentle traveler Daniel, was a prince, the future king. It seemed impossible. A fairy tale turned upside down. There was a moment of sharp pain. The deception stung. Had it all been a game to him? But then she looked into his eyes. She saw the fear there. She saw the sincerity. She saw the love that mirrored her own. The love was real. The man was real beneath the title, but their worlds were so far apart. A chasm now seemed to separate them. News of Prince David's affections for a common village girl spread like wildfire through the opulent halls of Evermore Palace. It was a scandal, a shockwave that rattled the foundations of courtly propriety. Whispers followed the prince down every corridor. Courtiers exchanged knowing glances. Some were amused, most were aghast. The idea of a future king marrying a peasant was unthinkable. It defied centuries of tradition. It threatened the carefully constructed order of their world. The palace buzzed with outrage and disbelief. King Alaric and Queen Lyra summoned their son. Their faces were stern. Their disappointment was palpable. They spoke of duty. They spoke of lineage. They spoke of the importance of royal alliances. "You cannot marry this girl," the king declared, his voice firm. "It is out of the question. You are a prince. You have responsibilities to this kingdom that go beyond your personal feelings." They demanded he end the relationship. They reminded him of his obligations. Their words were like iron bars, attempting to cage his heart. The courtiers, ever eager to protect their own positions, fueled the opposition. They saw Jane as an interloper, a threat to their influence. They spread rumors. They questioned her motives. They painted her as an unsuitable match, a simple girl unequipped for the complexities of royal life. They whispered in the king's ear. They tried to sway the prince with talk of duty and the kingdom's stability. Their disdain for Jane was thinly veiled beneath layers of feigned concern for the crown. They sought to isolate David, to pressure him into compliance. But David stood firm. His love for Jane was not a fleeting fancy. It was the truest thing he had ever known. He would not be swayed by their arguments. He would not yield to their demands. He had found a love that saw him, not his title. He had found a connection that nourished his soul. He refused to sacrifice Jane. He refused to sacrifice his heart. He faced his parents, his court, with a newfound resolve. His quiet determination surprised them. He was no longer just an obedient prince. He was a man deeply in love. The story of Prince David and Jane, the village girl, soon escaped the palace walls. It travelled on the wind. It was whispered in taverns and marketplaces. It was discussed in hushed tones around cottage hearths. From the bustling cities to the smallest, most remote hamlets of Evermore, the tale captured the imagination of the common folk. They debated the matter. They considered the implications. It was a story of love-defying convention. It was a story that resonated deeply within their own lives and aspirations. Many people in Evermore, especially those from simpler backgrounds, knew of Jane's kindness, or they had heard tales of her gentle spirit and her wisdom. They saw not an unsuitable commoner, but a woman of character, a woman worthy of love, regardless of her birth. They saw the truth of the bond between her and the prince. It was not a matter of status, but of the heart. They began to rally behind the couple. They admired Jane's quiet dignity. They felt a kinship with her simple virtues, and they also admired Prince David's courage, his willingness to defy the rigid expectations of the court, his determination to follow his heart. In him they saw not just a future king, but a man of integrity, a leader who valued genuine connection over cold tradition. They imagined a future where Evermore was ruled not just by lineage, but by compassion. His stand for love gave them hope. It suggested a monarch who understood the lives and feelings of his people, not just the dictates of royal protocol. Slowly, then with growing momentum, the people of Evermore made their feelings known. Small gatherings turned into larger demonstrations of support. Petitions were signed. Songs were composed and sung in honor of the couple's love. Balladeers spread their story throughout the land. The collective voice of the people rose. It became a powerful chorus. It echoed through the valleys and reached the very gates of the palace. Their support was a wave of warmth and encouragement, challenging the cold disdain of the court. Prince David was deeply moved. The unwavering support of his people, the steadfast love of Jane, these gave him the strength to make a monumental decision. He stood before his father and the king and the assembled court. His voice was clear. His resolve was absolute. "If I cannot marry Jane," he declared, "the woman I love, the woman the people embrace, then I cannot be your king. I renounce my claim to the throne of Evermore." A stunned silence fell upon the grand hall. The audacity of his statement was breathtaking. King Alaric looked at his son. He saw not defiance but profound conviction. He saw the love that had transformed David from a dutiful prince into a determined man. He also heard the rising voice of the people, a voice that could not be ignored. Perhaps he saw the wisdom in his son's choice. Perhaps he feared the unrest that would follow if he denied this union. After a long, tense moment, the old king sighed. He nodded slowly. "So be it," he conceded. Love had triumphed over tradition. The court was aghast, but the kingdom held its breath. The coronation was unlike any Evermore had ever seen. David and Jane stood side by side. He was crowned king. She was crowned queen, not just by right of birth or by ancient law. They were crowned by love. They were endorsed by the people. Cheers erupted throughout the capital. Flowers rained down upon them. It marked the dawn of a new era for the kingdom, an era where the heart held as much sway as heritage. The ceremony was grand, yet it felt deeply personal, a celebration of true connection. King David and Queen Jane ruled Evermore with compassion and wisdom. Their decisions were guided by fairness. They listened to the needs of their people. They remembered the village of Meadowsweet. They remembered the importance of simple kindness. Love, not just lineage, became the cornerstone of their reign. Under their joint rule, Evermore flourished. The land prospered. The people were content. The Rose of Evermore, as Jane came to be known, and her beloved king proved that the strongest kingdoms are built on a foundation of love and mutual respect.